and thanks for tuning in to the channel, or welcome back if you're tuning in again. Glad to have you. I am Bill, your host, for another episode of Umpteenth Time Hearing, where I'm building up a collection of songs that I know like the back of my hand, hoping that my umpteenth time hearing some of these might wind up being your first time hearing something new. If you're tuning in because you're familiar with this week's artist, I encourage you to take a look at some of these other videos that I've posted on the channel over the course of time. There's a real eclectic mix of artists out there, and bound to be something that you haven't heard before, a whole bunch of different genres. Now, in the last several weeks, I've been focusing on music that had fun lyrics, kind of entertaining and amusing music versus some of the darker stuff I was playing during the Halloween season. And the last couple of weeks, I've gone from the bubblegum pop of Julie Brown's "'Cause I'm a Blonde" to the more punk rock tinged psychobilly of Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper. And this year, I've got two guys who've been working together for decades now, a band that is, in my mind, amongst the grandmasters of absurd fun lyrics and some truly interesting instrumentation as well. I'm speaking here of John Flansburgh and John Linnell, more commonly known as They Might Be Giants. And this is an artist, these two are artists, that they have just such a, they've been doing this for so long, with 23 albums and various live albums and collections and whatnot. There's so many songs to choose from. A lot of them feature, as I say, they're sort of absurdist type lyrics. Put your hand inside the puppet head, birdhouse in your soul, and of course the classic Istanbul, not Constantinople. But the song I've decided to go with this week is one of the ones from their earlier era, which is what I'm most familiar with, that has some slightly more serious meaning to it. The song, as you can guess from the title, really, the song is called Your Racist Friend. Before I get into the music, though, I want to talk about a project they had going for a couple of decades that I didn't even know about until I started doing some research for this program. It's called Dail-A-Song. It started in the early 80s, and the original line ran through the 90s. And it began when John Linnell had been in, I believe it was a bicycle accident, maybe a car, but a bicycle accident, whichever, broke his wrist, unfortunately. And simultaneously, John Flansburgh had had his apartment burglarized, and they just weren't performing live for a period of time. So they just got an old tape recorder answering machine and started recording songs and some little odds and ends on it. And people could call in to listen to one song at a time. They advertised it in the Village Voice. It was so popular that you couldn't get through on the line half the time. They prompted them to evidently use the slogan, always busy, sometimes broken. And since this was back before cell phones, you had to pay any toll charge if you called the line. They also like to plug it, from what I understand, with a line in their advertising that said, "Free when you call from work." And in the early days of this operation, you could actually record a message on the answering machine after listening to whichever one piece of music that you were allowed to listen to. And a couple of folks, not realizing this feature, wound up being recorded for a couple of minutes as they were just speculating back and forth between each other about how these two were making money by doing this. And of course, what's a band like They Might Be Giants to do? When they released their early single, She Was a Hotel Detective, on EP with four songs on the other side, uncredited and unlisted after that single on the A side was those 2 minutes of conversation, which on the CD release they just put as the last track. Anyway, that's enough about all the different side projects. These guys have so much that I could talk about here. If you find you like this music, it's really worth a dive into it. As I say, they've got like 23 albums. 5 of those are kids' albums, in addition to compilations and live albums. They've won a couple of Grammys, both of them for work with kids or kids-oriented type of stuff. One was for one of their kids' albums, and the other was the soundtrack. I believe the first one was the soundtrack for Malcolm in the Middle theme song. And so, without any further ado, let's go right into their music. This is a great recent live performance of theirs, of their classic song, Your Racist Friend. This is They Might Be Giants. Enjoy. yes, we've all been there, that dinner party, that business gathering, that social function, whatever it was, where there was that one person that you just did not want to talk to because you could tell right off what kind of a person they were. Well, They Might Be Giants have, this and some other songs that are more serious, but as I mentioned, they are somewhat the grandmasters of quirky offbeat lyrics and quirky offbeat music. But in addition to that, they have, as I talked about earlier in the podcast, done a lot of work around kids and kids programming and kids music. We've got those 5 kids albums, the third of which won them their second Grammy, their first one coming from, as I mentioned, the soundtrack from Malcolm in the Middle. But they've also done guest appearances and other soundtrack work as well. The most notable of which I would guess might be showing up with India.Arie, Tony Braxton, and Macy Gray for the final episode of the kids' TV show, Blue's Clues. And another real interesting side project that I learned about when I found out about Dail-A-Song is this benefit album that John Flansburgh, along with Spike Jonze, the film director, and Barsuck Records put together called Future Soundtrack for America. There's a lot of great, well-known artists on that, like David Byrne, R.E.M., Tom Waits, Blink-182. Some more lesser-known artists like Fountains of Wayne and Death Cab for Cutie, and covered earlier on this podcast a number of episodes ago, The Flaming Lips. It looks like a really interesting record and something I'm interested in checking out. I encourage you to do the same. Speaking of checking things out, I forgot to mention earlier that I did have those lyrics posted down below if you missed them and want to go check them out again. Replay the video so you can follow along with the lyrics is what I'm going for there. And of course, I've got the band's official website posted down below, and there's also a link for the modern iteration of Dail-A-Song that's down there. And of course, while you're down there, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you can find out what's coming next week. Appreciate the likes and certainly any comments you have about the artist or the program. And speaking of next week, that's going to wrap it up for this week. And next week, I'm going to put an end to sort of the fun, goofy lyrics theme that I've had going for a while here and just get back to a straight-up rockin' song. An artist that this song was, as I understand it, quite a hit in the modern dance club single charts, whatever you call those. I don't go out to dance clubs, so I wouldn't know. But just really never made an appearance on the charts otherwise. Like number 94 in England, and the only country where it broke the top 10 or the top 20 was New Zealand at number 18. But it is a great song, and giving it away here for anyone who knows the band, because you'll know what I'm talking about. It is the only song in the history of rock and roll to use the word parthenogenesis in the lyrics. You'll find out who that is next week on Umpteenth Time Hearing. For now, though, thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, may the best of your past be the worst of your future. Have yourselves a great day. Bye now.